What your physique says about you to women. Now, I've been the guy that was really scrawny. I've been the guy that got too fat. There was two different instances in my 20s where I bulked up to almost 200 pounds. One time I was literally 198 when I was in my early 20s. There was another time I was like 31 or 32 and I was 195. About maybe 4 months ago, I was 183, but I was a lot more, I wasn't fat. I was a little bit more bulky. I put on more muscle since the previous times, but I've been the fat guy. I've been the scrawny guy. I've been the really lean guy. I've seen a variety of different physiques ranging anywhere from 9% to 20% body fat. And I've had plus or minus 10 pounds of muscle swing. Right now, I'm right around 167. Maybe around 10% body fat. So 5'8", by the way. But I want to talk about what your physique says about you to women, right? Now, one thing I will say is that when your physique is dialed and you look attractive, like when you have a decent amount of muscle mass, I'm not by any means a bodybuilder. I'm 167 pounds at 5'8", which is not that much. I will say though that my legs are a little bit smaller. Like my one calf is actually really small. I tore my calf and my legs are just a little bit smaller. I didn't prioritize them as much in my 20s. So I would say my upper body's probably more equivalent of a guy who's like around 175 for my actual height. But either way, what I'll say though about your physique is this. When you have some muscle and you're lean, you're gonna look more attractive. What that does is that it makes you walk around with more confidence because you really look like that guy. It's easier to act like James Bond when you look like James Bond, right? It's harder to act like James Bond when you look like a fat homeless man. In fact, it would feel so incongruent. It would be really difficult. So understand that your physique, in my opinion, this is from my own personal experience, being a variety of different guys, I would say most men, they over prioritize the importance of it to a woman's visual perception, honestly. Now look, if you're lean and you have muscle, are you gonna get more eye contact? Yeah, I get more eye contact at 9% body fat than I do at 15. Like way more. And even more at 9 versus 18 or 20% body fat. I don't get any eye contact. If I'm over 15%, I don't get any eye contact. Even if I'm over like 12%, I don't really get much eye contact, honestly. So does it help? Do you get eye contact? Sure, but understand that getting eye contact doesn't mean that the girl wants to have sex with you or is even down to date you, okay? So that's a whole nother story, but look, if you feel more confident and you genuinely believe that you're sexy and you feel like I'm an attractive guy, you will walk around with a different aura, you will radiate different energy. You'll have a certain level of entitlement when you're interacting with a girl. Like if you feel like you're an 8 and you're talking to a woman that's an 8, it's gonna be a lot easier to believe, yeah, I'm worthy of this woman. It just makes sense on paper. Like I had a client recently, he was like, Kyle, like I see you in your interactions talking to women. I'm like, yeah, like he's equally as attractive as these women are. Like that makes sense. I said, yeah, of course. But why not work on your physique and your appearance? Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, work on your confidence, but work on your physique too, of course, right? Like, I want to be I want to be the best looking man. I'm not in denial about that. I think it's important, but that's not the only pillar. That's just one pillar. You need to work on all pillars. But back to the scope of this video, it will help you internally radiate a different energy and exude a different level of confidence. What does it actually mean to the woman? A lot less than you think. A lot less than you think. Because if you're already interacting with women, understand that me at 9% body fat and me at 12% body fat, the girl doesn't give a fuck. Once we're already on a date, it means nothing. Me versus 9% and 15%, if I'm already on a date with a girl, it means nothing. Like let's say I have an online dating profile and I look a certain level of attractiveness and then I go on a date with you at 9% versus 15%, it doesn't mean that much. What's more important is your confidence, the way you communicate in the interaction, the way you make her feel, your frame in the interaction, the experience you give her on the date. Those are way more important. She's not saying like, Oh, I feel it, but you know, he's 9% body fat. Holy shit. But he's jacked. Holy shit. They don't care. They care about, they care so much more about your status and the way you make them feel than they do your actual physical appearance. Now look, is there a minimum threshold that you should have? For sure. Like, you do need to hit a minimum threshold for the woman to feel attracted to you, at least somewhat. But what I'm saying is that, like, physical appearance, to go from an 8 to a 10, it doesn't matter that much, man, honestly. What matters more is the other pillars. So I think guys hyperfixate on physique because they think it matters so much to the woman. Look, on online dating, yeah, it's exaggerated in that context. So if a girl's just looking at your physical appearance and she's swiping, of course it's exaggerated and amplified more in that type of environment. But when it comes to social interaction, social outings, different environments, the way that you interact in an environment and the way that the environment responds to you and the way that you engage with her and your nonverbals and your vibe and the way you carry yourself, so much more important than that last 10 to 20% of upping your look a little bit more. So much more. Like, I'm at a point now where, yeah, I could still optimize my look more. It's not going to change much about the girl's perception of me. What's a lot more important is decking out the other pillars. So a lot of the guys that are hyperfixated on this don't realize that, like, it's more for you than it is for her. Because if you look a certain way, you're gonna feel a certain way. But anybody that's gotten really lean or that's already had a high level of success with women, they know that it doesn't need to be 100% 10 out of 10 look. You don't need to be at your 100% best. It's more about your confidence and all these other areas, which is correlated, but I don't want you to derive your full sense of confidence based off of your physical appearance. That's why I was always so big into cold approach and interaction, because anybody that's done social interaction a lot or done cold approach a lot knows it's very much so based around your state and your social flow and social momentum. It's so much more important than your physical appearance. Does having a minimum threshold of physical appearance matter? Yes. But I could look in terms of me physically, like if there's like 10 different versions of me, and there's a 10 out of 10 version of me, and then there's a 7 or an 8 out of 10 version of me, the guy that's a 10 out of 10 who has really low levels of social momentum and he's in a low frequency versus the dude who's a 7 out of 10, but he's in insane social momentum, that guy's gonna get the girl. He's gonna go up to that girl and he's gonna know how to approach her. He's gonna be able to look at her a certain way. He's gonna be witty in the interaction. He's just free flowing, no filter, funny, can spark emotions. The dude who's 10 out of 10, but he's in his head, there's no comparison. No comparison, like night and day difference. I would always take the guy who's a little bit less attractive, but has an insane social flow, right? Which tells you it's not all about physical appearance. Now, again, my argument, why not do both? Why not do both? Knowing all of these things, why not do both? You have to. It's your obligation to build all of these different pillars. All right? If you want to level up as a man and become the most attractive, most charismatic, most confident version of yourself, I'd love to help you accomplish that. In the link in the description down below, there's an in-depth video where I talk more about my transformation, my clients, and my coaching programs. All right? Click that link, watch that in-depth training. That's all for this video, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out. Let's go.